Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another stream, another expedition of the Anime Encyclopedia. This is the fourth stream of this, and we're finally finishing the A section, at least in the first edition. Actually, no, this is the third stream. I'm silly. Sorry. The third stream. Yeah. So I did all my reading today. Pretty on the nose. I will say to start out with, I was thinking of doing a fourth stream not like next Friday because I'm actually going to be on vacation with my parents. So I'm going to have to, yo, what's up? So we're going to have to do another stream, I think, like early next week. Like, I don't know what day, like Tuesday or something. Not Tuesday. I don't know what day. We'll see. Wednesday, perhaps. Or Sunday. I don't know. Hey. I'm hoping this week because I'm leaving like Thursday, so I don't know. If not, then it is what it is. I'll just miss that week, and then hopefully I can get back to this. I don't really want to miss a week this early on. It's just because like I really want to keep this as a regular thing, so it can actually happen. I feel bad about the Mecha Dead stream, and I mean this is built upon that because that was like that had absolutely no preparation on my part whatsoever. It was very spontaneous. But I do still want to kind of find what the discovery of that video, of that series was, and try to give it some closure. I still want to do that. But for right now, we're going to deal with this. So I wanted to start the stream with, I know it's very early, 6:01, but I wanted to start with reading an entry in the encyclopedia from the third edition primarily, talking about developments and possibilities. So I don't quite know what this section is supposed to be about. I haven't read it. I wanted to like read it blind, but I did read like the first two paragraphs, and they have some kind of interesting takes. They have some tea, I think. It'll be interesting to kind of react to that and I don't know, see what we think about it, and I don't know, gain some insight from them. At least as of the third edition in 2015. This is as of the third edition. Let me just pull the chat up so I can like occasionally check it. But it's a pretty quiet. That's fair. It happens with subsequent streams, I guess. But we're gonna keep going because this is ultimately a recording and a recorded VOD that I'm hoping to, build upon this whole thing. We got kind of a spicy read this time, as they be. But yeah, this is a. I'm gonna be reading some stuff from the third edition and commenting on it. Sorry if there's no like you can't really read along or anything. I don't want to buy into this being like, pirating it or something. I don't want to like just rip it wholesale or whatever. But I don't know what to. If nice visuals, maybe my face or something. I don't know. But I hope you enjoy it. So this is about developments and possibilities. Modern restrictions and expectations are most apparent at the beginning of each season, when the labors of the previous months are broken down into a series of banal press releases that manage to make almost everything look the same. They have like that very world weariness about these things with these authors is they're very world weary. They're older, mature, and they've also really exposed themselves to the entire deluge, like the whole of anime. Whereas a lot of us we can be in blissful ignorance of however much anime we want. But if you have to really pay attention and like look through everything, I can imagine it's a tumultuous task. But everything looks the same. Okay. And that's as of 2015, at least. At the time of their initial broadcast, both Escaflowne and Evangelion were sold to the magazines as almost identical shows, along the lines of Teen Gets Robot. I wish they gave more of more to like, please. That's really interesting. I'm very interested. Like, in what issue was that, and what exactly did they say? I think that's really interesting, informative. But to me, it just sounds like as it's written right here, as is, it makes it seem like you're just kind of assuming, or just like you're generalizing that. I find that hard to believe. Although I kind of find that I do and I don't, I guess. I don't know. I just wish I would have more concrete source for that. Period piece animes help me interested in classic novels. Yeah, It'll be interesting. It's interesting you bring that up with one of the entries they have in the first edition that they were not too enthused about. It's an entry called, what was it called? It's an anime called that I haven't even looked it up. Animated classics of Japanese literature. They were not enthused about that one. Anyway. The anime industry grinds down at new entrants with cruel rapidity. Although sometimes it is possible to discern a couple of areas in a new production where someone has yet to become jaded. I'm not quite sure what they mean by that, but I'm not going to dwell on that paragraph, on that sentence to really figure it out. But take that what you will, I guess. A TV show might boast wonderful music like Brain Powered, or innovative computer graphics like At Last Exile. It might have a remarkably intelligent script like Patlabor or the Ghost in the Shell spin-off standalone complex, or a distinctive eye-catching art style like Haibane Renmei. But a show that has all those hallmarks is rare indeed. Okay, fair. I mean, it's okay if certain shows are excelling in one thing or another. I think it's fine if Haibane Renmei, it makes it sound like that's all Haibane Renmei has. It's like, okay. But I guess so. Country music. Yeah. The idea that fans of anime, for anime's sake, constitute an important market sector is nothing new. I feel like this is kind of relevant. This is a very perennial topic. It was a feature of the arrival of home video players in the 70s and 80s, especially the video cassette recorder and the theme of Gainax's landmark Otaku no Video. However, in an age where only fanatic devotees are prepared to forgive many of modern anime's shortcomings, only fanatic devotees are prepared to forgive many of modern anime's shortcomings. I don't know where that's coming from. I feel like we have I wouldn't say we have the most high standards, I guess, but like, what are you gonna? You're scrutinizing fans for being a little more forgiving of their media, I guess. Like, okay. I think anime make very interesting companion pieces to classic novels. See Gankatsuo. Easily the best adaptation. Numerous shows are, in an age where only fanatic devotees are prepared to forgive many of modern anime's shortcomings. Also, modern anime's shortcomings. Okay. Numerous shows pander desperately to the fan audience with a crop of solipsistic. I believe I highlighted and defined this as like supposed to mean like individualistic, I guess, but like I highlighted solipsistic, like this particular word, and it couldn't come up with a definition, which is interesting. With a crop of solipsistic titles, SOLIPSISTIC, solipsistic. Titles such as Animation Runner Kuromi-chan, Comic Party, Anime Shopkeeper, and Cosplay Complex. Some may regard this as the anime equivalent of reality TV, in which mainstream entertainment becomes so dull that the audience prefers to turn the camera on itself. Okay. Others may see it as a recognition of the size and purchasing power of the fandom block, with TV niches in the mainstream narrowcasting to even smaller interest groups. The many thousands of active fans now constitute a sizable enough market to generate its own entertainment and consumption, up to a point. According to statistics published by the Nomura Research Institute in 2005, the total anime fan base in Japan amounts to roughly 112,000 people, which is to say the circulation of Nerd Type magazine, or 0.1% of the Japanese population. See ratings and box office. I feel like the show is far too different to the book. It's not that comparable. I know Jonathan Clements dislikes moe anime. Yeah, they've voiced at least one time so far about like the deluge of moe anime, I suppose. I haven't seen them actually talk about any of them yet. I really like the Gankutsuo anime. It didn't always warrant its setting. I like the Mecha Duel, although I wasn't much of a fan of Gank. Solipsistic means obsessed with oneself, so like it's anime about anime's own value. Yeah, generally used in a negative sense. I see. Interesting. Others may see it as a recognition of the... Yeah, okay, it was here. 0.1% of the Japanese population. While more than 1 million members of the Japanese public might flock to see the latest Naruto film, the hardcore of anime fans remains a tiny population. and fan-focused products speak to a declining niche within Japanese society. Many niche interests show retail at $100 a disc, intended in Japan for a rental, rather than retail market. Kickstarter arguably arrived a little late in Japan, partly because many shows were effectively already being crowdfunded by a population of only 1 or 2,000 fans, paying 10 times as much as American consumers. I don't really know where this is going. I don't know what this block is for. This is like at the beginning, before they've even talked about like any titles or something. I don't know. Like, this is usually supposed to clarify. This is like in the intro where they're supposed to clarify aspects of the encyclopedia and why they did certain things. But this is just like a lecture about like how popular this stuff actually is, or whatever. Are they the moe ruining anime type? We'll see. I think we can probably like digest, like, and try to, if we're going to make that claim that they're anti-moe in this encyclopedia, we'd have to have a lot of examples. It could be, and you know, there's probably a lot of counter examples too. Like, there's probably some shows that they actually really like. But if it's very obvious that there's certain shows that they don't like, there's a trend, then it's like, okay, you know? He talked about it at a panel at some convention in Czech, I think. The centralization of the anime business back in Japan and the shakeout of niche interest fandom has led to an increased focus on marketing direct to fans, such as the subscriber base. I guess this is sort of like an explanation of where some anime might come from lately. Production IG, okay, yeah. Direct to fans, such as the subscriber-based streaming portal Daisuki, which is funny because Canada talked about how a failure that was, and it's like it didn't really go anywhere. Production IG's first foray into crowdsourcing the Kickstarter-funded Kickheart was closely watched by both fandom and other companies, while Anime Souls now uses limited online streaming as a means of soliciting crowdsourced orders for subtitled DVD boxes, and And Anime Souls is also a completely failed venture that's like really outdated to mention in this point. It's a very footnote at this point. It's interesting, but it's a footnote. This has offered new leases on life for old material such as Creamy Mommy, Fumoon, Fumoon from 1980. Okay, it's a TV special. It's just called Fumoon. Okay, it's not like an abbreviation or something. I'm like, what? I clicked on the name to try to figure what the fuck that was. And now I lost my place. Yes. I gotta keep the chat open. Can something be called an adaptation if it's so different? Yeah. Or Banderbook. And speaks volume about the size of the otaku market, often requiring only 1,000 orders to go into production on a limited edition, and as in the case of Yanaman, sometimes still failing to do so. Behind the scenes, it also amortizes the cost of generating an archive of subtitles for any future Japanese releases. Even a failed Anime Souls project generates English language assets. Exactly, I agree. Rights to which revert to the Japanese at the termination of each license. Such legacy assets may be incorporated into future Japan-only releases, a trend already visible in the repurposing of 1990s Anglophone materials in the 2013 release of Macros Plus. Oh, I forgot he mentioned Full Moon. Yeah, I thought so too. I was like, oh, what? Why would you call it Full Moon? Yeah, I know. I thought it was Full Moon too. Controversially produced as a region-free Japanese Blu-ray, containing dual language and subtitle tracks in both English and Japanese. This decision effectively turned the gray importing problem on its head, feeding a new gray export market for overseas fans prepared to pay $100 for the item, but also potentially inhibiting the viability of overseas territories. I guess, but it's also a weird situation with Macros because of the whole Harmony Gold thing, so it's kind of like it's weird. Gaming. The immediate future of niche interest anime, which is to say everything except cinema blockbusters and primetime television. Okay, everything except... Yeah. So, the immediate future of niche interest anime, which is everything except cinema blockbusters and primetime television. Wow, alright. It is a drift toward increasingly expensive limited editions as Japanese... I don't know why they're talking about this, honestly. as Japanese rights holders attempt to train foreign fans to accept Japanese pricing policies. When the 2-season box of Ghost in the Shell standalone complex retail in Japan for a total of just under $600, this is a tall order. Where anime, like, you could just have a bunch of these anecdotes. There's plenty of examples, but where is this leading to? Where anime was once dumped on viewers for free via television, it is now more likely to be sold as an exclusive rare item with notional added value and bonus extras, such as the expensive US release of Garden of Sinners. Yeah, and that's like Aniplex's strategy, and that's a strategy, but we also have Discotech that sells a lot of these anime for $20. Like, we're selling Project Echo with all the features and a brand new restoration that no one's ever seen before. It's never looked this good in the world for $20. Like, you know, it's sort of like, what else should we do? Got a drawing tablet the other day, so I'm going to try to draw Mitsuki. Let's go! I love you. Da, 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 da. I can't wait to see if they hate that show. I hope so. I hope not. It is a fact little acknowledged in the media that innovations are often pioneered in the pornographic world. Erotica and pornography were at the forefront of the move into straight-to-video distribution in the 80s and formed the driving force of much of the late-night anime of the 90s. Similarly, erotica, and the reason I shrug and kind of roll my eyes at this is just like, of course, you know, they seem to like real. I'm not as, like, I get like pornography is like, it is a reality, and it's like a facet of it, and I'm not trying to like demean it or anything like that in the same way, but it's just like, it's just that focus, that like overtly focused thing, and putting a lot of value on it. It's just like, okay. Yeah, it wasn't even the first Kira adaptation. You know, I mean, it was definitely a boom, though. K-On! Definitely wasn't the first, but it's not like a... It wasn't the first at all, but it was definitely one of the more popular and good ones. Like, ones that, like, it really had, like, an ending message and theming and stuff like that. It really adequately made, like, really, like, Naoko Yamada, like, killed it and everything like that. And, there's things about it that are like technically very impressive about K-On! That I think makes it like, it's not worth like belittling it as like it didn't start this moe trend or whatever. It is a watershed moment in my opinion. Anyway, erotica was first. I don't really care with the. I'm sorry to not read this paragraph about distribution. Today we predict that. Oh, here's interesting. In 2015, today. We predict that if the mainstream continues to follow in erotica's wake... Okay, I guess I have to read the fucking erotica one. It formed the driving force of much of the late-night anime of the 90s. Similarly, erotica was the first with online ordering, presaging at the modern mainstream, with over 38% of all anime in Japan are purchased online, either as download or as DVDs. In our 2006 edition, we used such precedents from pornography to predict that mainstream anime would increasingly favor online distribution and streaming. And giving credit to that, to porn, like, okay, I guess. Sure. Today we predict that if the mainstream continues to follow in erotica's wake, then in the next 5 years, so this is 5 years ago, we might expect to see anime much less visible to the general public, as an increasingly closed circle of consumption feeds the interest of an ever smaller group of fans paying for an ever more exclusive product. So they thought that this would kind of like spiral further and further niche, but it's not necessarily the case. It is more broadly. It's more, I would say it's quite opposite actually. Like, I get it. I think there is a niche for sure. There remains a niche, but Aniplex is insanely overpriced. They price it like they would over Japanese. Yep. Everyone knows that moe was invented by Haruhi Suzumiya in 1972. Yes. The rise of mobile phones as a viewing platform also appears to have influenced average running times, such as with some of which are... This is like a completely different subject. Like, now they're talking about running times. Like, what does that have to do with the subject of developments and possibilities? The rise of mobile phones as a viewing platform also appears to have influenced average running times, some of which are starting to fall below the 20-minute line. There was plenty of like TV anime like Neo-Ranga and these other shows that were 15 minutes, and you acknowledge that in the Encyclopedia. What are you talking? Like, what does this have to do? And yeah, there was a lot of 3-minute anime and stuff. Like, I agree. Many anime since 63 have been a notional half-hour in length, around 24 minutes, with space for commercials, a paradigm repeated on video to create the impression of TV length. However, this appears to be diminishing, as several recent porn productions favor shorter running times fitted to the attention spans and likely viewing slots of phone viewers, suggesting that the presence of TV, or rather the illusion of a TV format, is fading from the mind of producers. By 2019, anime in general could be substantially shorter. We predict increasing numbers of episodes clocking in at the 20-minute mark. I guess there is an increase. There is certainly an increase of that, but it's not the anime in general could be substantially shorter. I guess like 12 episodes, sure, in the same way. Like, it's funny reading some of the entries in the first edition, how they mention how like 52 episodes of the 80s Astro Boy is considered a failure compared to the 200 episodes of the 63 series. Like, that's like 52 episodes, that's a failure. Like, what? It's just like impressive. I don't think it's the sort of mode, but okay, yeah. The next 5 years will also see an increasing trend for post-anime. And as co-production deals dilute any specifically Japanese quality to Japanese animation, and some territories choose to discard the animation itself in favor of an adaptation merely of the basic narrative, while the copyright holder rakes off a license fee. Huh? This applies not only to the high-profile Hollywood version of Transformers and Speed Racer, or the U.S. Hong Kong remake of Astro Boy, but also to subtler appropriations, such as Star of the Giants, almost unrecognizably repurposed as the Indian cricket story Surai the Rising Star. Really? I've never heard of that. That's interesting. That's also a little conspiratorial. I mean, okay. Never heard of that. Or the release of Robot Adam, a Nigerian Astro Boy remake in 2014. Others are sure to follow. I guess they kind of were like, look, it's all the look at all the Hollywood remakes and live action anime stuff. It's like, yeah, I guess that's cool. But like the phrasing of that was really weird. Post anime, like the live action Death Note, live action Bebop, and live action One Piece and stuff, like the thing that Netflix is making. It's funny they have not really mentioned Netflix a single time. I don't think. I want to like Control F and search Netflix in this. How many times did they mention Once! But Sidonia was the first show to be picked up by Netflix for exclusive release. And that was when they were talking about Knights of Sidonia. How many times do they mention Crunchyroll? Once. Was streamed on Crunchyroll under the title Fairy Tale Musketeers. I don't even know what title they're talking about. Like, they don't even mention those companies. Very interesting. You'd think that they wouldn't get them out of their mouth. And it's 2013 and 14 and 15. Like, that's impressive. Nah, BS. What are they talking about? Yeah, Netflix wasn't a thing in 2015 for... I mean, no, like, Netflix, like, the anime was on Netflix. I agree that they weren't, like... They were, like, Netflix jail wasn't a thing. Happy Friday, boys. Hey, Sudi, how you doing? Yeah, I mean, okay. Yeah, this is the weird way of putting that, I think. Innovation in modern anime since 1983 comes in the form of refinements and experiments with existing forms. Sometimes the achievements are not immediately obvious. In Gundam, Sailor Moon, and Pokemon, the true genius lay in the pioneering of multimedia franchises for their target audience. In Dalos, it was the opening up of a new niche for more adult material. What? In Dalos, it was the opening up of a new niche for more adult... It invented the OVA! You're gonna just word it like that? Like, you're really just trying to erase the idea of an OVA. Like, we talked about this when they're talking about terminology. They're like, we don't really like the term OVA. Is it really original? Is it really technically video? Is this really animated? Like, Oh my god. And that's just how they just kind of in Dallos, it was the opening up of a new niche for more adult material. Sure. That's what OVAs did. Adult material. Definitely not nothing else. For Maison Ikkoku, Tenchi Muyo, and Chobits. It's an interesting alignment. It was the refinement of an old genre that altered the chaste titillation. That is titillation of I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched for a Japanese TV audience. Maison Ikkoku? Did they mean Urusei Yatsura? Did they mean Urusei Yatsura? Because you remember how like they can't keep Tenchi Muyo and Urusei Yatsura out of their mouths, right? And like I Dream of Jeannie and Bewitched? What does that have to do with Maison Ikkoku? I think they confused Maison Ikkoku for Urusei Yatsura. I swear to God, that's so funny. What the fuck? I don't know what they're talking about, by the way. It's like, so what? Innovations, like, okay. Many modern achievements have been reactive as a show resists overlying trend. Many modern achievements have been reactive as a show resists overlying trends, such as Cowboy Bebop. The author is a madman. Authors, but we don't talk shit about the authors here. We can pick apart all their choices all they want, but we won't call them. No, don't call them names. Deliberately conceived, such as Cowboy Bebop, deliberately conceived as a sci-fi show without giant robots. There's plenty of sci-fi anime without giant robots. Like, what is that? Like, the whole thing about Bebop is like, we want to make a sci-fi without giant. What are you talking about? Or Evangelion, written in reaction to the robot shows of the previous generation. Like what? Like what? Yeah? Go on. I don't know, kind of a pedestrian kind of take. Gantz is TV for a generation that no longer watches TV. Gantz is TV for a generation that no longer watches TV. Designed instead for the longer-term viewing habits of TiVo users. TiVo? Whoa! Gantz is designed instead for the longer-term viewing habits of TiVo users and DVD purchasers. Yeah, I agree that like Gantz could have been made with like knowing that it's being aired on TV, but eventually it's going to make all its money from like, not watching it live or whatever. I guess. Perhaps the greatest innovation of all modern times comes in Voices of a Distant Star, the first release to truly utilize software that allowed a private individual to completely bypass the old distribution system. Yeah, I mean, it is pretty cool. Like, it was made by pretty much one person. It's funny that this was written before your name. Because it's like, yeah, like, that person got into the industry, but we don't see a whole... Like, I guess you could probably make the art with, like, independent animation. I don't know. Like, yeah. The world of Japanese animated features is less confused, since it's... Oh! The world of Japanese animated features is less confused. First of all, I don't know where they're going with this, and then they hit me with this thing. Since it is still dominated by Hayao Miyazaki, as it has been for the last 20 years. Huh? Yeah. Oh, no. I guess Mamoru Hosoda didn't direct Wolf Children and Summer Wars and Girl Who Leapt Through Time in the time that they made this book. I guess Mamoru Oshii hasn't made a movie since Skycrawlers. Yeah, I get that. That's fair. Oh my god. Okay. I don't know where this... What is this? This is just like... They're just kind of like listing a bunch of... I don't know what this... This is so unfocused. It's dominated by the dude who made a movie every 5 years. I guess. In 2015. I know. However, this too is about to change, with The Wind Rises heralding his official retirement from feature filmmaking in 2013. Oops! Which, like, obviously I can't knock. Obviously, like, that was pretty well-regarded information until only a few years ago. But it's just funny, like, now that he is making another film and he's still working on it, I guess he just dominated anime films in the 2010s too. Make that 30 years, I guess. Sure. Compared to the accomplishments of Studio Ghibli at the Japanese box office, this was made before Your Name and Demon Slayer, most other anime features are mere marketing exercises or flashes in the pan. These are during class. Like, wow. Boner much. No offense, whoever wrote the, it's just like, you could tell that they have preferences between Miyazaki and other creators. The last 30 years have been dominated by the rise of computers, gaming, and digital animation. What's poppin'? First, through the growing amount of What is this about? I still haven't really wrapped my head about what this section is about. I'm just as confused as I was going into it. First, through the growing amount of investment money available for gaming-related anime, and then in the exodus of creative staff out of anime altogether for the better rewards of the computer industry. Such as erosion of talent in anime proper served to accelerate the growth of the use of computers, a position that only increased the likelihood of gaming investment still further. Many anime studios are now part or fully owned by gaming companies and media conglomerates, codifying and streamlining their long-standing roles as vehicles for advertising and sponsorship. Okay. But also encouraging producers and viewers to regard any anime production as less of a standalone product and more as a facet, this is the end of it, of an overall media mix. Cool. I don't know what that was about. And that was 35 minutes of the stream. Awesome. Well, let's get into the reading, fellas. Oh, intro 3rd edition. My bad. I should have included that. I just noticed the tape. Let's go to my notes. Ah! How dare you? Bruh. Oh, for fuck's sake. That's not... God damn it. One sec, fellas. That's not the notes, my guy. Okay. I hope that didn't have okay. Okay, that's not too bad. Akage no An, please. Yeah, let's do it. Let's read Akage no An. Did I? Oh, yeah, I think I... Yeah, cool. All right, notes. Here we go. All right, so let's first go over really rapid fire. I won't take too long on these. Where is it from? Since Angel's Egg. Or Angelique, I think. Yeah, okay, so real quick of the stuff that was compared from the 1st edition to the 3rd edition. Let me pull the chat up in case people mention things. Hello. We will read Akage no An. Angelique, there was Fubuki time. Sorry, that's 3rd edition, but I'll read it because I don't know what's going to happen to next week's stream, so I'll read it. Angelique, there was a new blurb about the sequel. Angel's Egg was a completely new synopsis and some added blurbs. Animated classics of Japanese literature, there were some small tweaks and additions, so you can tell they actually went back through and did some certain additions. I have it highlighted, actually. Actually, there was some interesting things about that one that I remember. Scrolling through. I highlight all the new changes, basically. Angel of Darkness. Okay. It's funny. So, in this blurb about animated classics of Japanese literature, they say few true Japanese classics make it to the screen. Instead of, the 1st edition where they go few Japanese classics, they just kind of, punched up the words for some reason. Yeah, but, in the original run compared to... Yeah, there was, little changes. That was the only, notable, change. They're for true Japanese classics make it. Because they were not very enthused about this one. I think for the sake of chapters for time codes of this stream, I want to go over what they wrote for this, because it was not nice. Like, they were very scathing for this first edition. Like, they're describing it, and it's basically like adaptations of some of their famous stories. Let's head over to Mal to show you. Let's see what it looks. Give a I should probably always just like, I should do that later. Earlier. I'm sorry. Animated classics of Japanese. What a weird. I think this is it though. And like, you know, who gives a shit? Yeah, Zenshu. Yeah. Yeah, this is the thing for it. Let me read the. They were not nice. They were not happy with this one. It's like, who can't, like, I've never heard of this one before, right? It's like, whatever, man. But as one might expect, a nation's literature is not readily sawed into bite-sized chunks for digestion on primetime TV, and the selections are often arguably off base. The collection does beat with punchy short stories like this one. Longer works often suffer through drastic cutting. Tsushio Ozaki's theater life is condensed from 530 pages to less than 30 minutes. Censorious editing, the prostitution subplot is completely removed from Ogai Mori's Dancing Girl, or slappy translation. The English version makes several silly errors, and explanatory liner notes are unforgivably absent from the video release. I love that. Like and explanatory liner notes are unforgivably absent from the video release. Like you know, translation. Yeah, they just didn't like the translation for some of these. They clearly have a passion for some of these stories and stuff, and they were just like very critical. The choices for adaptation also seem haphazard or overly conservative. It's difficult, for example, to think of something less representative of Yukio Mishima than The Sound of Waves, and there are duplicates of Botchan and Sanshiro Sugata, while the tale of Genji, Akenden, and the Sensualist are conspicuously absent. The collection also includes a story by Koizumi Yakumo, without revealing he was the foreign-born author Lafcadio Hearn. But although this story is not Japanese, others debatably classic and occasionally barely animated. Again, they're just like shitting on how non-animated some of this is. It's still a notable failure in its attempts to get couch potato children. What the fuck? To get couch potato children interested in real books. Like, it's so pretentious, right? Like, they were pissed for like this fucking. Who cares? Like, what is this, right? Less than like 1,000 to like 600 members and middling. Like, who cares? You know. 2 episodes, adaptations of Masao Kume's Student Days and Saneyatsu's Friend Who Didn't Believe in Friendship, were not broadcast, appearing instead as 2 specials, blah, blah, blah. Like, they were just, like, really peeved about it, right? And it's just kind of strange to me. They were just so harsh about that. Let me show you the notes. Leisner in English, so I could have obviously been there if they talked about it at all. You have anything to say on Leisner? Yeah, yeah, I think they put it in L for Leisner, I imagine. I didn't read it in my first edition. I didn't come across it. Blue Comet, yeah. It's probably in B. Why do they assume the reader would know what all these Japanese stories are? I know, right? Like, they try to, like, they try to avoid stuff like otaku or shoujo or a lot of these terminology stuff, and they try to, like, use different words that they'll understand, but then they go off on these huge tangents about, like, these stuff that only they really care about, which is fine, and that's cool, but it's just, like, a difference of priorities. It's just, like, a odd thing of priorities. It's getting mad. It's like getting mad at Wishbone. Like, it's not really like, you know, on one hand, I do appreciate caring about children's media in this way and having good standards for it. Like, I would want Wishbone to get, like, criticism and like, you know, how you stand holding up to scrutiny, but at the same time, it's like the prevalence of it, like, I don't know I've never heard of this show before, you know what I mean? Couch Potato Children pick up real books. Yep, published in the 2000s. All right. Yeah. All right, let's continue. Animentary, there's a new blurb. Akage no An, there was a short new blurb in the 3rd edition just talking about Konnichiwa An. They didn't really have anything to say about it. Although I will read Akage no An now. I will read Akage no An. Okay. Green Gables is the house in Avonlea Village on Prince Edward Island in early 20th century Canada, where childless brother and sister Matthew and Maria bring an 11-year-old orphan, Anne, to live. Though there is some confusion when Anne turns out not to be the strapping male farmhand they were hoping for, she soon makes friends with local girl Diana, and the pair begin a happy, if somewhat tedious, rural existence. That's it. No. They do have more. They do have a little bit more. But like synopsis-wise, that's how they're going to describe it. Okay. Based on Lucy Maud Montgomery's book, this entry in World Masterpiece Theater series was directed by Grave of the Fireflies' Takahata and featured animation from Whisper of the Heart's Kondo. The earlier parts of the series contained layouts by Takahata's famous cohort Hayao Miyazaki, although after episode 16 he left to make Castle of Cagliostro. Now that's it. No opinion. Not really any. Yeah, it's a thing. Has some famous names on it. Yeah, it's a show. Alright, fine. Oh well. It is what it is. But they had a little blurb about Konnichiwa and just kind of like, whatever. It exists, I guess. Anpanman, there was a new blurb about subsequent movies. Like, they just kind of listed a bunch of the later movies, like, after 2001. Appleseed, lengthy new paragraphs about franchise post-2000. Like, good lord, they love Appleseed. They also like Armitage the Third. There's certain titles, like, I do want to isolate certain titles that are just like, there's a lot that you're talking about here for a show that I wouldn't expect. And like, I've described it in other, I'm going to be quite the broken record with this stream series, but that's good, because then it really reinforces like the idea, like the core ideas we're going to take away here. But like, what was I going to say? It's like, it's surprising how much detail you put in some of these other titles, but then the titles that like I would consider matter a lot more or a little more prevalent, and something the community should know about and care about, are far less described or far more scant. Like there's clearly a sense of priorities, and I actually don't, as of this reading, I actually don't think that they reflect the anime industry as a whole, or they didn't influence it the way that I was wondering if they did or not. Like, that was one of my lingering questions about when going into this. How much did they influence the anime industry itself? And it looks like it's kind of in spite of it. Like, they were like, this got robbed, or this didn't get as popular or whatever, and they seem a little forlorn about that, about some of these titles. Do they talk about the importance of World Masterpiece Theater? Yes, they have a section on World Masterpiece Theater, and that's probably their catch-all, just to database you on all the different World Masterpiece Theater shows. I don't know how much they emphasize importance. We'll get there probably a year from now or plus, so like when we get to W, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't want to bounce around a whole lot, but that's probably my guess. Is they're just using it as a catch-all so they don't have to list every single World Masterpiece Theater show. Give each one its own entry, basically, because a lot of them are just like, yeah, it's Tom Sawyer, or whatever. Yeah, so that, like, Appleseed, oh my god, let me just go into Appleseed. So it's kind of nuts. They have, this is how much they have on Appleseed. Where I need to put full screen so it's easier to show you. So like, Appleseed is right here. Appleseed's right here, and it has all of this, and all of this. And then like, I would guess based on like how much they added in 2015 about the new there's like new adaptations every time. So I think they actually had like a new edition in the second edition, and then another new edition in the third one. But it probably goes down to like here. It's a lot about Appleseed. Is this spoilers? I do have a list of which anime they spoil. Let me go to my notes. They have spoilers for these shows. I would argue. I don't actually, like, I have not seen every anime, obviously, so I don't know. I'm just reading, I'm based on it where it's like, it turns out this, or they describe the plot very detailedly, or they give away the ending. I was like, it ends like this, or something like that. Then it's like, well, that's clearly the ending. That's like a spoiler, like a conventional spoiler. But it's a little, you know, the people can be like, have nuance to it, I guess. Yeah, but like it has a lot. Like, I don't know if I want to spend a bunch of time reading the whole thing, but like, that's another entry where they go really in detail about all of the. Let me just like read like a passage or something. They don't spoil it, but they talk about like Shira, like the author, and how like this was soon eclipsed by Akira. Look out for a couple of in-jokes, a magazine named after Shiro's superior, Black Magic M66, and some very bad Japanese spelling on signs. There are some sweet touches, such as the loose change falling out of Denam's pants when she gets in the shower, or the cloying ways she starts simpering whenever she sees a child. But for an anime produced by the Peerless Gainax studio, Appleseed depicts a curiously mundane future. You know what I mean? And they just kind of keep going into it. And as Shiro loaded the original story with classical references, and like they get really they kind of nerd out over it. And that's fine, that's fair, but like, it's disproportionate, right? It's sort of like, it's weird to see this much detail in Appleseed and not this amount of detail in something that's a little more formative, right? At least I don't consider Appleseed to be formative, and maybe that's a matter of opinion. Sure. Yeah, okay, so they moved Senni Ichi Monogatari. They have it listed in the first edition as Arabian Nights. Which I've never seen anyone reference it as that, which is funny. But they moved it to 1001 Nights, so that's in the T section. And I did read it. I read the first edition, obviously, and then I looked at what they had for the third edition, and there's no... Oh my god, yeah, they do have this omission that's really stupid and funny. So, like, here's all of Arabian Nights. Once again. It's this right here. All of this, and all of that. And, like, up to here. Up to here, I would say... Wait a minute. Where am I? It's hard to do this with, like... It's hard to do this. Sorry, it's also lag. It's like around here. It's around here where they stop describing the plot. They go beat by beat and describe the entire movie. Like, in detail. It's so bizarre. I don't know why they did it. Also, I don't think they know what anime rama is. I don't think they knew. This is how they describe how this movie came about. During a mini boom of Japanese interest in the Arabian Nights, Astro Boy creator Tezuka published his own manga adaptations and subsequently adapted them into this sumptuous film. Is that what happened? I don't remember. I don't recall that. By the way, I noticed that my camera capture is like super laggy. I apologize. I don't know if that's coming through in the, like, at least when I'm watching OBS and stuff. But oh my god, what? I've never heard that before. Of like, oh, he created a manga out of it and then he just adapted that manga. That's not the origin story I'm familiar with 1001 Nights. Okay. Interesting. Let me read the comments. I feel like World Masterpiece Theater section will mostly talk about Miyazaki and Takahata and gloss over everything else. God damn it. Hey, Shapes. Can't wait to hear about Belladonna in a couple weeks. Yeah, me too. See, like, they don't even mention 1001 Nights. They don't even mention Belladonna in this. Okay, let me read this. Yeah, I mean, it's positive at least. So, like, they mention this. This is another instance where, like, some of the trivia that they're trying to pack into these things is about voice actors, and it's like, who cares? It's like, I've never heard of this. It's kind of interesting, but it's an anecdote, and it's like a voice actor anecdote that's just like kind of useless in the grand scheme of things. For reasons known only to himself, Tezuka also invited several famous novelists to contribute to the production as voice actors, and in the third edition they clarify this as minor voice actors, like background characters. Like, who cares? But they go on. Unsung talents included silence author Shusaku Endo and the science fiction writers Yasutaka Tsutsui and I'm so sorry that I'm butchering these names. Sakio Komatsu. Komatsu would return to help Tezuka in a more sensible capacity on Space Firebird. Like, who cares? There have been several other Japanese versions of the same blah 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 blah. This is interesting. This is the first edition, you guys. An English dubbed version running at approximately 100 minutes and missing the crocodile sex, the lesbian princess, and several other scenes was reputedly made for foreign distribution, though none of our sources can confirm its existence in translated form. They actually couldn't confirm that this was English. It's not asterisked so like every title has if it was ever available in English, it has an asterisk next to it. This doesn't have an asterisk next to it, even though the dub was literally made the same year as it came out, and it exists, obviously. And they do clarify that in the 2015 version. They also like, I love this blurb where they go, running at approximately 100 minutes and missing the crocodile sex. Like, they have to clarify that. They cut all this, like, crocodile sex, the lesbian princess, and several other scenes. Like, they cut it just runs 100 minutes. Like, yeah, it did cut some scenes out. But that's really interesting, isn't it? Much more than that. Yeah. I don't know if they're referring to which one you're referring to, Bayo or Rufin. Yeah, that was just so weird. They didn't even know that they couldn't confirm the dub's existence. It's really interesting. Area 88, there's a new blurb about the 2004 remake. They were positive about Area 88. Armitage the Third, another one that they were just like, oh, they went on and on for that one. There's another, yeah, it like takes up like almost a full page. Armitage the Third, again, the picture is kind of unrelated, but it starts right over here and does all of this and moves into the next page. Like, over here. All that. Like, so, like, all huge entry on Armitage the Third. And mostly, like, them touting it and stuff. Like, I don't know if they really needed to. But there is a new blurb about the sequel, which is, I actually haven't read it yet, which is kind of, I only glossed over it. Let me go find it. Armitage the Third. Armitage the Third. Armitage the Third. Yeah. The video sequence. So they were very positive about this particular OVA. I think so. I think it's an OVA. Yeah, 3 episodes. Video. Yeah, it's an OVA. I think. Yeah. The video sequel, Armitage the Third Dual Matrix, takes place 6 years after the original, with Naomi and Ross now living under a false identity on Mars as Mr. and Mrs. Oldman with their daughter Yoko. With news of robot riots breaking out off-world, Naomi travels back to Earth to hunt down a new conspiracy, in the process facing her most powerful foes, replicas of herself. However, the same could be said of Dual Matrix in its entirety, since while it may attempt to restart elements of the original, it could be accused of merely rehashing them. There was much in the original Armitage the Third to recommend it, not the least in a reproductive subplot that foreshadowed the new Battlestar Galactica by several years. but Dual Matrix failed to move the franchise further along, and it ground to a halt here. So they seemed pretty peeved about that. Like, oh, this is a good franchise, and then it had this shitty sequel. The tears are a little delicious. Not like I don't know. It's because it's like, commenting on something that, I don't know. I guess it's a little weird of me to say, but that sort of thing. It just sort of like, I don't know. I don't know why I said that, to be honest with you. Sometimes it's weird. Crocodile sex sounds based. Yeah, the bad guy does it, I think, because he has like a reason for it. Moved Armored Chronicle Hio to Clockwork Fighters Hio's War. I think it was because it was like a 2001 anime, so they kind of moved it to a more appropriate area. Astro Boy, there's a new blurb about subsequent franchise. It was kind of weird with Astro Boy because they were very first of all, they spoiled the 63 series. Not like the first episode. I'm like, yeah, that's the premise. But like in the last episode, blank blank blank. Like, they just spoil the end of the show. I'd never known about the end of the show. I didn't know that's how it ends. So, that's annoying and frustrating. I will spare you that in terms of what happens. It's interesting. But, yeah, that's annoying. Especially since that end of that show has never been brought in English, to my knowledge. Isn't this supposed to be an encyclopedia? They aren't supposed to be aren't supposed to be objective? Well, I think a lot of people's qualms, and they've addressed these as qualms, like they know that this is a contentious choice, but they've talked about how, like, their opinions and what they put in this and stuff, and like in having opinions in general, a lot of people see it as like kind of like biased and not very objective in that way, right? So, but they were like, no, we want this to be a discussion, and I think they have other reasons, but they don't really. They defend it. They know it's contentious, but like it's something they wanted to do is put a lot of their opinions in it, which I have tallied. I tally all how many opinions they give in on what, so it makes it interesting. Of like, oh, this is what they've decided to put their opinion towards, versus what they haven't put their opinion towards. There's some differences and interesting things in that way. A lot of times this feels like an encyclopedia, and this feels less like an encyclopedia and more of a collection of reviews. Yep. Yes, it does. Or just like their little musings on various shows and stuff like that. Like some of these feel like essay type videos where it's like, oh, this cool thing I liked about Arbitration the Third or whatever, and like a bunch of trivia. Like there's a lot of trivia in this. It feels like when I say trivia, I mean trivial details. Things that just like, that's a fun fact, I guess, but it just seems less constructive and formative, I'd like to see their mal accounts if they have any. I bet they think they have a bit of a grudge against Mal for stealing a lot of their synopses that they worked very hard to construct, I guess. But a lot of them have turned out to be kind of the synopses are okay. There are some times where they're bad, like when I know I'm familiar with the anime and I'm reading it. I'm like, that's such a bad like their original synopsis of Angel's Egg, which was on the first stream. I think the very first stream that we did, we read their original entry for Angel's Egg, and it's like a little lacking. So it's like sometimes it's funny, but other times it's like I get it. They worked hard on. And Mal stole it, like, whatever. But I doubt they have Mal accounts, is what I'm saying. They're also very old. Like, they're old. At least they seem that way. Yeah, but, like, it's funny about Astro Boy. They obviously they talked a good deal about it, but they spoil it, and then they talk about, like, the 80s series and how it was a failure for running only 52 episodes. Like they when they talk about the 80s series here, perhaps as a result of Tezuka's own dissatisfaction with the series, the new adventures, the 80s series, were dark in mood despite their bright colors, featuring many failed missions and dying good guys. There was a greater concentration on Adam's evil twin, Atlas, built from stolen blueprints by Count Walpurgis, a European arms manufacturer. Deciding to conquer the world, Atlas opposes the emotional Adam with cold logic, eventually coming to realize over many episodes that it is he who is lacking something. It's kind of nice. Atlas was not the only one lacking something. The series was unsatisfactory to makers and viewers alike, and only lasted for 52 episodes. 52 episodes of paltry. A quarter of its predecessor's longevity, though still considerably longer than most modern serials. Yeah, like, at least they acknowledge that, but it's like, why still call it a failure? Despite its failure to live up to the impact of the original, that's the other thing. You didn't really sell me on that. Like, you said what the last episode is, and that seems to have some impact, but, like, are you sure? They also very much belittle it being the first long-running TV anime. Like, they make a point to be, like, often erroneously described as the first TV anime, see Instant History. Like, yeah, Instant History exists. I haven't read their entry on Instant History yet, but, like, looking at what it is, it's, like, 32, it's, like, it ran for less than a year, or a little over a year. It had a lot of episodes, but each one was only 3 minutes. And did it really, like, influence or did it get popular? You know what I mean? I think it really downplays, like, all they said, like, it was the first anime to be broadcast abroad. Like, they just kind of talk about its, like, worldwide impact and, like, that, but, like, they're not talking about how it effectively revolutionized and, like, was the reason modern, like, TV anime is the way it is. You know, like the whole limited animation thing. Like, it's way more of a big deal production wise than it is like an emotional impact of, like, I've heard plenty of people say the 80s series is better than 63 from what they've seen of 63, because 63 is just, like, episodic and they kind of didn't know what they were doing. You know, which is fair because that was the first fucking TV anime, like, long running TV anime. Like, you can be like, actually about the about the TV anime thing, but how constructive is that? How helpful is that? Like, what did Instant History do that, like, really influenced the whole, like, that obviously didn't push the needle in any way. So, like, why bring that up? You know? Why belittle Astro Boy like that? I don't know, just weird for me. A measly year-long anime. Yeah. Why would you care about posting your reviews? People don't read them. I've written them up and they stay on my computer so I can tell if I want to watch them again. That's cool. And it's for me too, for me to remember why I liked or didn't like the show. There are some shows where I kind of forget, like, specific details of what, like, you know, I used to do that a lot for my first couple hundred, but then I've eventually stopped doing that to, like, writing, like, little blurbs and stuff like that. I should probably continue that, but now I'm so behind on that, it's, like, tough. But I agree, there's a utility to it, but I don't know, publishing it in a book, it's like, eh. Most anime would kill for 52 episodes. Not every anime can be One Piece. I know. How many shows in the 80s even got hundreds of episodes like that? Yeah, I don't know. What was it? Yeah, so I just think that's weird. They were very belittling of its historical significance, I think. They were also focusing a lot on the fact that it was, like, the first one They were making much more of a big deal that it was the first broadcast in the West. Which, like, yeah, that's also a big deal. That's part of the reason. But, like, there's other reasons to it. Like, they should have talked about its first Mushi Pro production. And, like, it's weird that they name drop when they're talking about the 80s one, they're like, the new production drafted new faces, including including directors Noboru Ishiguro, Satoshi Dazaki, Naoto Hashimoto, and Takashi Ano. But they're not going to mention how the original had Dazaki, Tomino, Takahashi, Rintaro, and Gisabaru Sugi working on it. Like, really? Or, like, I would have imagined that they would have talked about, like talk about fucking trivia and, like, tidbits and stuff. Why didn't they talk about, like, the one-off episode that was drafted by mostly, like, mangaka authors like Ishii Mori and Fujio, the Fujio guys, and like some of those manga authors that weren't animators, and it turned out really bad. It was like an episode that Rentaro directed and shit. Like that's kind of an interesting tidbit. I don't know. Just like they just focus on different weird things, you know. Although there was one tidbit that I thought was interesting that they brought up. The US version eventually screened 104 of the full Japanese run, including such curiosities as a TV special of Adam fighting the Star of the Giants. Like a crossover between Adam and Kyoji no Hoshi. Though the latter remains unknown in the English-speaking world. So there is English material of Star of the Giants. It's just a crossover episode with Astro Boy. That's really interesting. Honestly, you know way more about anime than these authors do. I don't want to take that sort of credit because I'm obviously standing on the shoulders of a lot of other people that did a lot of this research. Like a lot of what I'm talking about off the top of my head, it's not original research on my part. Like, you know, there's people who have made entire threads and like art blogs and stuff and videos, and you know, this is from 2001, right? We've only kind of come up from here, but here's the thing. A lot of this Astro Boy thing is unchanged. I've been writing the all the nuanced and differences and stuff, and they didn't touch most of this. The only thing they added was a new blurb that's just kind of updating you, like, oh, since we last talked about it, there's been a 2003 series and some live action, blah 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 blah. But that's all they change. They don't really do much because there's so much. Of course they can't dramatically, unless it's egregious and a lot of fans give them pushback, like Angel's Egg. I can imagine like that one was incredibly lacking for how beloved that film is. So I can imagine that they were like, oh, okay, here, you know, they'll concede in that way. But for the most part, they don't change a lot of this stuff. And that's sort of that's kind of shame on them personally. Like I get that's a lot of information to go through, but I imagine also that they got a lot of feedback from fans. Like they asked for feedback, and it doesn't seem, how much of it did they really take? How much did they really consider? You know? How much did they think was like, oh, that's not really warranted, or we're right. No, we're right. You know what I mean? But no, I mean, I know off the top of my head because I'm super passionate and into this stuff, but I don't want to. But also, it's like I can Google things. They didn't have Google like in the same way, in the same capacity that I do. You know, I'm standing on a lot of great, valuable research. But I appreciate you mentioning that. I just think it's good to make that clarification. Because I definitely don't want to like buy into the I know, but you know what I mean? Because it's not helpful. No, I'm not trying to belittle you or anything. I'm just trying to like explain my reasoning. Anyway, I'm sorry. I went off on that a little bit. Despite its failure to live up to the Oh, this is weird too. Homages abound in both the U.S. and Japan, from the obvious big guy and Rusty the boy robot to the desperate stab at legitimacy of Birdie the Mighty. Like, why do you gotta diss Birdie the Mighty like that in your Astro Boy article? Like, where is that coming from? It's just so weird. That's like the third instance of that I can think of off the top of my head where they like diss a different anime in a different article, like to kind of piece together their opinion on it. I guess I don't know. It's weird. Yeah. So interesting. Attacker U. There's a new blurb about the remake. And Aurora, they insist it's not the first full-length. They were not nice to Aurora. Well, let's find out. Let's look at what Aurora looked like. Let's pull up Mal. Oh, sorry, I'm leaking your document, your book. I'm sorry. Aurora. Dojinshi. I think it's this one. Sheesh. less than 500. Oh my gosh. Holy crap. What is this? You know? A lot of obscure, like, you know, but of course they go in. Where is it? Aurora. Okay, so they describe it. This hackneyed, predictable sci-fi thriller's CG origins merely make the characters more expressionless than usual. I don't know what they mean by usual. You saying that a lot of anime just doesn't? Yeah, I guess so. Aurora was Japan's first full-length 3D computer animated movie, although Visitor and Alice were shorter works that preceded it. And then in the third edition, I'm gonna I'm gonna cover my screen so I don't leak a bunch of shit, because I'm trying to be sensitive and protective of it. Aurora was billed as Japan's first full-length 3D computer animated movie, though Alice seems to qualify several months ahead of it. So like they just have this like real step it up to the bat for fucking Alice of all things. Sure. Back to my notes. Yeah, and that's all the changes basically. And now we're an hour and 13 in. Okay. I'll try to. I think I did like go through a lot of the material, so this will be. I'm not gonna like repeat myself. Try to at least. So this reading, I believe there was at least, if my math's right, there's 19 new reviews, bringing the total amount of reviews to, at least in the first edition, there's 81 entries in A. So we finished A. There's 36 out of the 81 have their opinion somewhere in it. You can tell what their opinion is on the show, on the anime. So this reading, there's 7 new positives. Pretty good, some positive stuff. My tally's a little weird because like I don't know if I counted Angel Egg in my previous one and my totals and stuff like that. But at least in terms of the stretch between Angel Cop and this, Angel's Egg was beautifully executed, although it's a little more mixed. But I can tell that they liked it. I don't know, based on the wording and stuff. Arc Lyra, they liked. There's a rich vein of sci-fi concepts and puts them to good use. I'm like, that's cool. Again, I really like when they are positive about these anime I've never heard of. It makes me interested. I was talking with Bob Samurai. I have a new AniTube T podcast coming out soon. Birdie Mighty OVA is fantastic. Why you gotta hate on Birdie? That's rough, buddy. Yeah, Rory is ugly as sin. I agree. It's kind of oof. But like I like when they're. I was talking with Bob, and it's the idea that like there's some reviews that he's just never going to publish, or he intended to review it, and then he's just like, I'm not going to bother because who cares? Like if he's going to be harsh and shitty and like shit on this like movie from the 60s. I don't remember how we worded it, but it was just really funny and just kind of revealed the triteness of a negative review, where people want reviews to know what to watch, not what not to watch, right? It's kind of useless to watch a review of something that is so negative about it, and you're like, don't watch this, and you're like, great, I won't. It's not recommending you anything. It's disrecommending you. And so it's like, why did I watch this? Right? Because you're trying to, like, a reviewer, you're trying to sift through all of this. There's so much anime out there. So why are you spending your time even watching a review of something that it's telling you not to watch it? It's kind of useless in that way. I think we worded it a lot better, but it's like, it's kind of useless because this is additive. Like hearing about how good Arca Lyra is, that's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that. I never heard of it. Let's find out. You know what I mean? Actually, let's find out. Why not? Arca Lyra. Oh, sorry. I keep doing that. Uh-oh. Maybe sometimes they put it like a their title, like they try to make an English title for it and it doesn't really work out, but thankfully they put the title in they include the Ramaji title usually, or maybe that is the Ramaji title and that's just how obscure it is. Where is it? Arca Lyra Aru Karadu. Okay. Aru Karadu. Oh, I guess this is it? Yeah, Arca Lyra. Okay. Cool. That looks interesting. Who's in it? Top review. Only review with 3. Yikes. Can't see any particular huge names on it. Okay. Okay, cool. Not very well reviewed, and obviously no one's seen it, but interesting. Very interesting. But you know what I mean? That's like additive and stuff. I like that. Area 88, lively adventure story. Few war anime compare. Nice. You can tell that they don't. I haven't read their Gundam entry yet. I can kind of tell that they are not big Gundam fans. That they're very cynically like, it's for toys. It's to sell toys. Advertisement for toys. Yeah, I was like, yes, okay. Go off, king and queen. King or queen, whoever made that decision. Aryan, mature and exciting adventure, superior to Venus Wars. You see what they give this little hierarchy. There's like, they did this in Armitage too. No, Appleseed, where they were like, oh, it's Black Magic number 66 is much better. Like, who cares? Like, okay. Talk about this show, all right? Don't have to put down other shows like that. Armitage the Third, like Blade Runner. I simplify that, obviously. Like, they talk about how it's like a lot of anime get compared to Blade Runner, but this one actually deserves it. It's like, all right, that's cool. I appreciate that. Attack Number 1. They don't really give their opinion per se, but like they talk about a remake or like a spin-off that's trying to cash in on the idea because of like the Tokyo the Olympics or something like that. And they're like, oh, it's compared to its illustrious predecessor. So it's like, well, that sounds positive. I don't know if they've actually seen it, you know, but okay. How do the authors talk about the shows that just came out when the book was written? Yeah, they talk about like Angel Beats and another and Attack on Titan in the 3rd edition, but that's going to be in the next stream. I split each reading in half, like into 2 streams. So this chunk that I'm going in through A right now, between the halfway point of A, which is Angel Cop, and through the ending. What was I going to say? Like I do that for the 1st edition, but that's this stream. And then the next stream we're doing all the 2013 stuff that happened, anime that came out past 2001. But you know, they're similarly mixed, I think. Gotta give props to Bob for reviewing all that anime that most wouldn't bother with. Kind of wish that style of content was a little bit more popular. I agree, and it's also like really like easy to make, and he's just like cranking it, dude. He's doing 7 fucking videos a day, 7 fucking videos a week, 7 days a week, all day. He told me his schedule. He's like, dude, I wake up, I watch anime, I make a video, and I go to bed. It's like, holy shit. It's so cool. Poorly scored reviews are more for entertainment than for recommendation, but there's also value in just knowing everything. Yeah, I suppose. Like, if you have to talk about the show, you got to be honest about it. Like, I'm not saying to not be negative at all, but for the sake of, like, recommendation and like, review, I guess, I feel like you have to be a little more constructive. I don't know. Wow, so anime fans have always been spiteful. Yes, or cynical. Azuki-chan, they were also positive about a timeless school romance. Similarly, like, it came out in 96, and they were like, the people in the viewers in Japan were being prepared for the similarly entertaining Karikano. Because again, they're trying to link. They have this like real need to link every anime with each other, in sometimes very arbitrary, kind of in stretches, like kind of like, okay, you know, in various ways. So this was their way of doing it. It was like, got them ready for Karikano. It's like, okay. So there's 8 negative reviews. I've already talked about some of them. Angel's Sanctuary tries but fails to cram original into 3 episodes. Again, Anime Classics of Japan, they were pretty harsh on it. Notable failure. Argento Soma, I thought they were negative. They didn't really talk much about it, but they said, let me read their entry on it. Not the whole thing, of course, but their little blurb about it. Besides like the description of it. Mixing the nihilism of gray digital target with the ambiguous enemies of Evangelion, Argento Soma also features curiously lopsided designs for the asymmetric Frank and obvious tips of the hat to the Frankenstein story. As with many other TV series of the cash-strapped turn of the century, sure, we'll call it that. It's not... Okay. I mean, they probably have a basis for saying that, but, like, I thought it was more like they couldn't adapt to the technology all that well. Like, it's early Digipaint. It also demonstrates a noticeable drop in animation quality, going from reasonable to barely adequate in the space of the first few episodes. So it just kind of like, oh, it just goes to shit animation-wise, like, really early on. I did not get that impression watching Argento Soma. Not at all. I don't remember that at all. The designs are, like, fairly kind of lumpy, and, like, you know, it doesn't move a whole lot or whatever. I don't think it's shit, though. I don't remember it being like that. I thought it was kind of interesting. I liked Argento Soma. But that was weird. I just thought that I figured that it seems kind of negative. It seems like they dropped it. It seems like, oh, the animation's going to crap. Next. Is what it seemed. Ariel, low-rent gunbuster clone, hardly deserves its comeback. Like, it had like a sequel, and it's like, oh, doesn't deserve it. Like, holy shit. Jesus. Art of Fighting, an anime clone of Street Fighter 2. Tired story by numbers. You know, I get the fatigue of like a lot of these similar titles and everything. I can imagine if you're trying to be a database and trying to go through all of them, you can get caught up on it. But it's like, just say for what it is. You know what I mean? Aurora, again, I talked about it. Hackneyed, predictable. AWOL, they were also pretty mean too. I want to read that one too. I know I've been mostly focusing on their negative stuff than their positive stuff, but like that's just my point of interest. Again, I've made my, you know, I've made my my preferences clear. I disagree with as well. It's not moving much, but it's fine. I agree. It was more of a picturesque show. To use my very short-sighted, outdated terminology from my Berserk video. It didn't focus so much on motion. Actually, that's really interesting. The picturesque and kinetic thing that I talked about in my Berserk video, that's effectively what I'm trying to say is full animation and limited animation. I think. Yeah. Nice. Anyway. From early scenes of partygoers, lovers, and a child blissfully unaware that they are about to be blown to smithereens, to the introduction of a rookie character who might as well have dead meat tattooed on his forehead, AWOL is a low-rent Cold War thriller. Former ex-Japan member Hide's theme song was the best-selling anime single of 1998, but this poor effort is otherwise doomed to obscurity. The fact that it's set in space amid a confederation of worlds seems like a last-minute idea designed to justify it as an anime production, though even the cost-cutting tactic of drawing the spaceships and explosions still falls down when faced with such a low budget as this. Given millions of dollars... This is really scathing, too. Given millions of dollars and a Hollywood star, this would have been just as bad. But it would have made it onto 1,000 screens as a successor to Broken Arrow and Under Siege. In the anime world, however, it is simply below par, and few are likely to be fooled by half-hearted sci-fi design fudges like turning the Pentagon into a triangle. Like, that's just what they do, dude. It's like we're not gonna be fooled. That's supposed to be a spin-off of McDonald's. That says WickDonald's. That's a rip-off of McDonald's. Like, yeah, that's what anime does, dude. I don't know. I disagree. Yeah. And then INA's High Kick, they're also obviously very dismissive of, which is fair. I haven't heard very good things about it anyway, but still. And then I have a couple mixed reviews. Not as many at this time. They said Antique Heart was 10 years too early. Like, they were talking about, it's like a mystery genre or something like that. And they're like, oh, there was a boom in the 90s. But this was before that. So it failed. Because it had one episode. And that means it failed. Antique Heart. Let me see. In this short-lived it's a one episode 40-minute thing. In this short-lived adaptation of a long-running series from Wings magazine, 3 intrepid school investigators track down ghosts in the restroom, anonymous love letters, and any other mystery they can find. Intended to be the first of a series, this video was 10 years too early. The concept of supernatural schools would return in the 1990s with the successful Real School Ghost Stories, Here Comes Hanako, and Haunted Junction. Okay. I guess somehow I want to watch AWOL after this. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, Aqua Age. So they were mixed on Aqua Age or Mizuiro Jidai. Mizuiro Jidai is actually an anime that is listed um, as an entry for our group watch on Patreon, on our Discord. We're voting on what we were going to watch. I will tell you that the combatants, the selection is actually very very choice in my opinion. It's a choice between Hyoge Mono, Blue Comet Lasner, Mizurio Jidai, Gokinjo Monogatari, Future Police Urashiman, Ninku, Hakuge Densetsu, Nadia's Secret of Blue Water, 3000 Leagues in Search of Mother, and Romeo's Blue Skies. I would say besides Nadia, like I think Nadia is probably the most high profile anime in that, and then maybe Hyoge Mono after that. But other than that, like some deep cuts, and I was really happy with my patrons for choosing those particular shows. Yeah, so if you become a patron even for $1, you could join us on Sundays at 4 p.m. We're gonna choose one of those shows and watch them. Be pretty fun. But yeah, like they were mixed on it. It says all they say really is that it was quaint but uneventful. It's like, oh, okay, that's too bad. Arc the Lad was incoherent but attractive. I'm like, oh, that's pretty balanced, like mixed and stuff. I like that. And Astro Boy, I think they were mixed on because like they were positive towards 63, but they seem to be mixed on the 80s. At least it seems to me. There's still no changed opinions. There are three new entries in the third edition. As I was going through them, like seeing what was different between the first and third edition, Angels in the Court from 2000, Arrow Emblem from 1977, and Astro Ganger. They did not have Astro Ganger in this encyclopedia, which is like the Chargeman Ken. It's like the same studio as Chargeman Ken, which is like so interesting. That's like I don't know. I'm not gonna say like a classic or anything like that, but it's a show I've heard of actually. You know, I was like, wow, that's finally something I'm like, oh wow, that's not in there. That was kind of cool. But it is in the third edition, so that's cool. I didn't really do this elaborate and generic thing, so I have to kind of I really have to figure out and solidify what I consider. It's a very gray area. What's considered an elaborate entry versus what is considered too scant. I have to really identify it as like, wow, this has nothing. Like this had very little information about it besides the synopsis of what it's about. So I want to try to like really flesh this idea out, but it's not quite ready right now. Yeah, again, they have spoilers for Angel's Egg, 1001 Nights. They just recall the entire plot. Argento Soma, they do spoil early events, like the first 2 or 3 episodes, which I think are they're kind of cool to go in blind. Although I don't know if the official synopsis of like on Mal or something. Let me see if they say it on in the plot. This is a much better. I'm reading the Kitsu synopsis, and it's from ANN. It's much better. Yeah, they don't really spoil it. That's awesome. Yeah. The two things that I thought were like that's a bit of a spoiler and kind of something that like it's cool to not know about that going into it, are in this description or in the encyclopedia, and again not changed. But that was I've just read ANN, so I'm not gonna read it out loud just in case. I don't know. I didn't want to accidentally. I wanted to read it first to know if there were spoilers in it or not. I finished Romeo's Blue Sky. It's great. Yeah, I've heard amazing things about it. It's one thing to be negative. I get that they have to cover a lot of trash and they can't pretend everything's worthwhile. But the way they go about it often feels petty, snarky, and mean-spirited. Yes, that's a very articulate way of putting it. For the lemon, that was a very good way of putting it. Petty, snarky, mean-spirited. I agree. I think I agree that full 100%. I can't even add anything to that. Let me read some odd choices. Odd choices section. We're about an hour and 33 minutes. We're almost done, and we can do some free read. Explains the lack of popularity of Angel Legend with Ava. Yeah, so they mention how the only reason no one was watching this OVA didn't get any traction or popularity was because it came out after Evangelion. Okay, sure. Just explain it that way. I think that's very anecdotal. I don't know. That just seems kind of strange to me. Akage no An, yeah, happy if somewhat tedious rural existence. It's like, okay, what do you have to say about that? Aqua Age is a reverse Kimaguri Orange Road without the physics, without the psychics. Yeah, Aqua Age. Again, Mizuri Rai Jidai, the one of the anime that's in our voting list. They were just like, let me read it. Aqua Age. Where are you, Christmas? Yeah. This is kind of, I kind of, this is just like fun. I just liked how they worded this, I guess. This anime was somewhat marginalized in anime sources for committing the heinous crime of featuring no robots, interdimensional gateways, erotic plot twists, or anything out of the ordinary at all. That just makes it seem like an anomaly where it's like, no, there's plenty of anime like that actually. It's not very out of the ordinary in that way in comparison. Scratch the surface, however, and you will find a role reversal of Kimaguri Orange Road, with a female lead and an idealized male love object, without the latter anime's occasional intrusion of psychic subplots. What? It's just like strange that they just kind of have this little anecdote about Kimaguri Orange Road in this anime that's not Kimaguri Orange Road. I don't know. Yeah, 1001 Nights is from Tezuka's manga. I am new to hearing that. I'm probably gonna like DM Brainchild about that. Ask Megan about that. Like maybe it's true, and that's cool. But it's also just strange that they did mention Anime Rama, and they don't mention Yamamoto either. Like it's all Tezuka. It's all Tezuka, of course. Astro Boy, desperate jab at legitimacy. Yeah, it's just like, why jab at that? Jesus. Attack number 1. College? I have to double check. I've never seen Attack number 1. I could have sworn it's about high school, and then later they go to college. But like, college? It didn't seem like college to me, from what I've seen and heard about it. But they were like, Kozue is a new student transferred to Fujimi College. And then the rest of it seems kind of normal. But it's like, okay. Anyway, weird. What are some... Yeah, anyway. So now we're on free read in the last 20 or so minutes. So any anime from... And we did this last time with like Angel's Egg, and there's a little bit of wiggle room. Anything from the any anime that begins with the letter A. I will, if any anime begins with the letter A, even past 2001. If you want me to read Attack on Titan, I can read Attack on Titan. I like bad puns. More bad puns, please. Is it from Attack number... Wait. Plings of punctuation. Anyway. Yeah, so if you guys have any anime that begins with the letter A that like they have listed as A, so they have 1001 Nights as T, and Aoi Comet Blue Lazener is probably Blue Comet Lazener. So there's some anime that won't be in their A section. But Anpanman, Attack number 1. Let me see what was on my list of that's in the description. Let me just double check that. Woo. Edit. Okay. Apocalypse Zero is on this. It didn't end up being all that interesting. They just kind of compared it to Fist of the North Star. They weren't very negative about it, which is fine and okay by me. I actually was wondering if they kind of perpetuated that like negative stigma that Apocalypse Zero has had in the community. But it wasn't such a bad entry. But anything with the letter A, let's do Arcade Gamer Fubuki. Let's do that because I know Cheese wanted it. But let me I've been talking a lot. I've been on stream a lot. There's a smoothie right there. I should probably finish. Let me be right back, and I'll wait for you. I'll wait a minute or two, see if you guys want to like read. Yeah, Akunohana, probably Flowers of Evil. But I'll if there's no other entries, I'm fine with reading it. But I'll be back in a minute. Okay. Yeah, I'm already back. That was like probably less than 30 seconds. It's okay. Yeah, let's read Akunohana. Akunohana would probably be under Flowers of Evil. Yep. But let's since there's a few suggestions, Unless it was I think the rule of like trying to be out, not reading outside the boundary is just so that we can remain on topic and focused. But, if this is just like rounding out the I'll also read Arcade Gamer Fubuki after this. But let's read Flowers of Evil. All right, 2013. Mild-mannered teen. This is the first time I'm reading this. Mild-mannered teenager Takao Kusaga is a nerd who adores the class beauty Nanako Saeki from afar. Realizing that she has left her gymwear behind after school, he picks it up, intending to hand it back to her as an excuse to talk to her. Instead, he overhears her telling her friends that a pervert has stolen her stuff and slinks away. However, the manipulative outsider Sawa Nakamura realizes Takao's secret and uses the threat of publicity, shaming him to blackmail him into an increasingly sinister set of tasks and favors. Yikes! I've actually never read the synopsis of Akunohana. Then your top 5. Yaoidi's amazing. I might have missed it, but is Aria there? It is in the new edition in 2000 in the 3rd edition. I'll read that as well. I haven't read it. I haven't read it though myself. Okay, this is what they say about. They do have a paragraph about Akunohana. Haven't seen it yet, but I loved it in high school. Shujo Oshimi's original 2009 manga in Bisatsu Shonen Magazine was already a masterpiece of sadistic tension and ever-descending circles of a private teenage hell. Nakahama's anime version ups the effect by plumping for rotoscoped animation. I don't know why they would phrase it that way. Drawing the imagery over source footage of live actors to impart a true sense of realism and uneasy body language to the plot. Rotoscoping is nothing new in anime, not since Yoshiko Sakuma provided reference footage for Panda and the Magic Serpent in 1958. And Shinichi Sunny Chiba supplied martial arts reference footage for Sinbad the Sailor in 1962. But anime stylistics have drifted away from realism and naturalism ever since the 1960s, particularly since Tezuka's experiments in limited animation with Astro Boy and the TV boom it kicked off. There it is. There it is. I don't know why it's not in the actual entry itself. This makes Flowers of Evil stand out all the more in the crowd, aligning it closer to performance capture like Vexil than to the more Spartan animation of its fellow anime in the schedules. Positive. They dug it, it sounds. That's cool. Aria, Arslan Senki. Heroic Legend of Arslan, yeah, is probably what it's called. It's famous for rotoscoping, which look interesting. Let me do Arcade Gamer Fubuki. And then we'll do Aria. I'm assuming you mean Sato's Aria and not like the other Aria. Fubuki Sakuragasaki. Sakuragasaki. His excellent arcade gaming skills issue from her passion panties which trigger a magical girl style transformation. No, actually, all it does is turn her upside down and she's able to play video games while doing a handstand. I wouldn't really say that, but okay. When an evil organization tries to steal her powers, I think they just kind of use her powers in their own way, actually. They don't really, like, steal hers. But I guess they steal her panties at one episode. Whatever. Why am I defending Fubuki like this? I don't like that. I don't like this show. Fucking me. She channels gaming spirits the world over to unleash her other self. An arcade powerhouse with angel wings and sword. I guess in the last episode, but, like... Starting out as a gag anime, but winding up as a preachy family fable too long-winded to sustain its jokes. I agree with that latter part. This creation from Mine Yoshizaki inherits the mantle of Game Center Arashi, with on-screen homages. With on-screen homages to gaming classics like Virtua Fighter and Pac-Man. This would be satire. Also recalls less impressive anime antecedents like Ultimate Teacher, in which another heroine used special bloomers to release her fighting spirit, but was a waste of space without them. Made for video release, although the first episode was screened on TV before the release date. Pretty dismissive. Is what it is. Alright, Aria. I can just scroll down and find that. Okay. Aria. Don't have much to say about it. Yeah, let's see the comments. I'll do Arslan after Aria. Rotoscoping is the least interesting part of Akano. Ever read Dio yet? No, I can do that one too. In 2031, Mars has been so fully terraformed that it is 90% water, and has earned the nickname Aqua. Pink-haired Akari Mizunashi arrives at the Martian city of Neo Venezia, an idyllic canal-crossed metropolis modeled on Venice, Italy, where she hopes to find her fortune as a gondola pilot or Undine. Yes. Good. Based on the manga by Kozue Amano, itself a sequel to Amano's earlier Aqua, which began in 2001, and is hence absolved of any charges of ripping off Mars Daybreak. So, like, if the prequel didn't come out in 2001, they would have just been like, this is a Mars Daybreak ripoff. Cool. In fact, with its emphasis on life in a serene future, it owes more of a debt to Yokohama shopping. Yeah, YKK! While its backstory, again, they're just name-dropping anime for whatever, these clips of, it owes more of a debt to Yokohama shopping. While its backstory transformation of the Red Planet echoes Armitage the Third. Oh, man. They just love that one. Curious about Armitage. It's short enough that they likely watch. No, they fucking went off on Armitage in a good way. Like, they gave it all the attention in the world, dude. I can read the whole thing, but let me read Arslan. They probably only have the OVA. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they only have the OVA. Oh, they gave a fairly decent chunk to it too. King Andragoras of Persia, or Parthia, or Pars, or Pulse, wars against the invading Lusitanian army, while his son Arslan gathers a band of adventurers about him, including the disgraced officer Daryun. Andragoras is defeated with sorceress Fog, and imprisoned by the enigmatic usurper Silver Mask. Meanwhile, Hermes, agent of Silver Mask, searches for the legendary sword of Ruknabard, which once belonged to Kai Hoslo, the first king of kings. Arslan assembles an army of 100,000 and marches on Silver Mask, while a second party tries to stop Hermes, lest he awake the evil Snake King Zahak. I've seen the OVA and the new TV anime, and I cannot remember this. Like, this does not ring a fucking bell to me. Just funny. Oh well. Arslan began as a series of novels by LGH creator Yoshiki Tanaka. It was very loosely inspired by several genuine medieval Arslans, most notably the one taken hostage after leading 100,000 archers against Muhammad of Ghazna, and whose nephews founded the Seljuk Empire. Other models include, they're just like historical buffs, like history buffs. Like, ooh, like the Battle of Manzikert in 1071. Talk about the anime. Tanika's dates do not match any single historical event, even if we count by the Muslim system. But the maps in the novels are clearly based on historical Persia, stretching from contemporary Baghdad to Kashmir and bordered by the Caspian Sea and the Persian Gulf. Like Robert E. Howard's Conan series, Arslan mixes history and fantasy with impunity, with the Romanesque Lusitanians to the west and Rajendra's Sind kingdom to the east. For all the effort, Tanika might as well have set it in the far future and be done with it, a la Alexander. Or a la LOGH like he did. They don't even acknowledge that. What are you talking about? Tanika might as well have set it in the far future and be done with it. He did that. He has a... This is a different fucking story. Like, what do you just want him to make another? Like, okay. I guess. Like, Leiji Matsumoto, say less. To an uneducated Japanese audience, however, it all looks equally exotic. Much as Western moviegoers rarely concern themselves with the difference between, say, kung fu and karate. Yeah, alright. Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, alright. Like, they're very actually about a lot of this stuff. They're very particular. And that's fine. That's admirable in some cases, but you gotta be nice about it. After you know this much stuff, you should stop watching Nothing Will Be Fresh anymore. No, not true. I'm loving a lot of the stuff I'm watching right now. And there's plenty of classics still to watch. A lot of, like, I have like several mecha and Magical Girl series that I'm looking forward to experiencing. Why do they keep getting obsessed with certain shows? I could understand if they're historically significant, but it just seems random. Exactly. It just, there's no pattern. He did even second time with Titania. Yeah, dude. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people want him to make another LGH. Yeah. Yeah, what the fuck? I didn't read to be fair about the Armitage the Third, it's because like I didn't read the whole thing. From its early there's still more of this though. From its early heyday when the video were premiered in movie theaters, that's not even grammatically correct. From its early heyday when the videos were premiered in movie theaters. I guess it is like a little bit. It's just an awkward sentence. The Arslan series soon declined. Later episodes show a fall in budget, with a different production team, simplified designs, slashed running times, low quality animation, and the ditching of the earlier diplomacy for a simplistic quest modeled on King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. The first two parts were translated in the early days of manga entertainment, which altered the name to Arislan in a futile attempt to avoid ass jokes. Arslan? Because British, they call it the arse. Okay. The company elected to use British voices in an unremarkable dub that nonetheless seems to have impressed a U.S. audience inured to everyone sounding like they attend the same Californian high school. See Escaflowne. Okay. However, the British dub takes considerable liberties with the translation, claiming that Andragoras is dead, even though he is later found to be very much alive, and missing some lines that explain otherwise incomprehensible events. The inferior later episodes passed to Central Park Media, which released them bundled to a tape. As with Uritsuki Doji, the different dub location led CPM to hire a completely different set of actors, as well as altering many of the already confusing names at the request of the Japanese producers, whose whimsical spelling has been completely ignored by this in this encyclopedia entry. As with many other anime, well, clearly not. Clearly it's not been ignored, because you just keep talking about these like extraneous details. As with many other anime, Arslan exists chiefly to promote the novels and their manga spin-off to a Japanese audience. Like, that's so obvious. Yes, obviously. Whose access to the textual continuation of the story leaves them left less baffled than English speakers, who are left with a cliffhanger but little hope of a sequel. True, with the manga adaptation that happened recently. It adapted it, and then they kind of just stopped. Like, okay. Um, Azumanga Daioh. Let's check it out. I've not read this one yet. Me, let you, and you must say. I doubt they like it because of the, because it's moe do do do. All right. 10-year-old Chio Mihama is so bright she's skipped 5 grades and is just starting high school. But it will take more than genius-level brains and industrial-strength cuteness to survive the strange classmates and even stranger faculty. She joins Miss Yukari Tanizaki's English class and finds a teacher who loves drinking, snoozing, and video games. Yukari's best friend... This sounds so good, dude. I mean, I know Azumanga Daioh, and I haven't seen it yet, but, like... Even the description sounds so kino, dude. Yukari's best friend Minamo Nyamo Kurosawa teaches phys ed and seems very cool, except for her hidden fear that she'll never find a husband. Mr. Kimura, the classics teacher, lives in his own little world and only emerges to gawk at the girls, the reason he took up teaching. The result is an enthusiastically nostalgic look at the school days from the point of view of both teachers and students, over a 3-year timescale that rockets past, with only 5 minutes per sequence. The seasonal events and examinations whip round before you know it. In hindsight, the series is regarded as one of the first, if not the first, of the everyday anime. The everyday... First of all, are you talking about slice of life? And second, if you are talking about slice of life, Azumanga Daioh, as the first slice of life anime, is a take. Is a fucking take. The Moe Menace. Interesting facts, Legend of the Overfiend had Veronica Taylor in it and was shown on Sky TV. Oh. There's more. Half a dozen girls become Chio's friends and mentors, including the shy Sakaki, the nervous Osaka, and the over-enthusiastic Tomo. The challenges of their school life have a strong vein of the surreal, and the series' humor is of the love it or hate it variety. You could love it or hate it, I guess. All right. Even Chio's cat starts talking in a nod to "I am a cat." In a nod, is it a nod to "I am a cat"? Really? I've never heard of this show. Just one of a slew of cultural and pop culture references buried in the madcap onslaught of gags. The format of the show is unusual. 5 unrelated segments in each episode, which were also broadcast as individual mini-episodes, give each of the multiple characters their own moment in the spotlight. They also tie into the original format of Kiyohiko Azuma's manga, a 4-panel strip in the tradition of Sazae-san or Peanuts. Yo, my favorite, Peanuts is my favorite yonkoma. Fair. I wonder if they explain yonkoma in their argot and jargon section. Technically, the serial's first anime appearance was a second feature to the Sakura Wars movie, when a frantic 6-minute edit called AD, the Very Short Movie, was screened as an advertisement for the forthcoming TV series. I did not know that. Interesting. The series also had an online presence, in which mini-episodes with different voice actors were available for download, based on the manga by Kyoko Azuma in Dengeki Daioh magazine, hence Azumanga Daioh. Yeah. Clearly, he's former Prime Minister of Japan and his daughter going over to America. I Am a Cat is a satirical novel written in 1905 by Natsume Soseki about Japanese society during the Meiji period, particularly the uneasy mix of Western culture and Japanese traditions. Okay. The format is not that unusual. It's just 4 coma. I know. It would have been interesting if they kind of explained that, because that's actually very integral to Azumanga Daioh and where all this comes from. That would be a source of education and stuff. And not like they're educating in different ways, I guess. But like, I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. Where are we at with the time? I have 1:57. We're getting pretty close to the end of it. If there's any last minute things that people wanted, we can obviously, we're going to go through the rest of A in the 3rd edition. A lot of these entries probably should have been talked about in the 3rd edition, but it's okay. It doesn't matter. I like interacting with the chat. Pretty productive installment this time. Not a lot of like huge bombshells like the Alien 9 thing, which was pretty funny. But that's okay. Does this feature ONAs from countries like China, like All Saint Street? I don't know specifically. I think that, you know, let me look up All Saints Street. I don't get any results from typing that in. All Saints. Let me just do All Saints. Doesn't look like there's any results. So it doesn't seem that one's in there. But like, yeah, they're trying. I think they try to focus on Japanese particularly. Do they have Ayane-chan High Kick? Yeah, they do. They didn't like it. They have it in the first edition. It's let me read it. Originally announced as a 6-part series, Ayane's High Kick was cancelled after only 2 episodes. To excuse the cartoonish design, the script tries to play for laughs, piling on dozens of Japanese sporting in-jokes that fall flat. What's left is a predictable rags-to-riches tale, ripping off Ashita Joe and Aim for the Ace without any of their charm. The Japanese version relied heavily on a voice cast that included Yuko Miyamura, Asuka from Evangelion, in another fiery red-headed role. But this was not enough to redeem it. Matters are not helped by a truly awful English language dub that featured a cast who cannot even pronounce each other's names, with only Debbie Rabbi as Ayane producing anything like a decent performance. Pretty dismissive. Didn't like it. That's Ayane's High Kick. I'm trying to keep this to around 2 hours. So, Animatrix? Yes, we can go over that next stream. That's in the 3rd edition. The Encyclopedia seems to be written from a very Western perspective, and it doesn't talk about anime popular outside of America. It does talk about anime outside of America, just like not in a detailed, informational way, like because they haven't seen it probably. You can tell there's certain titles that they have seen, i.e., movies and shorter OVAs that they can just bang out. But a lot of the longer stuff, they usually just kind of give you a holistic idea of it. But they're both from the United Kingdom. To be fair, they're both United Kingdom and not like from America in the same way. But obviously they know like America's kind of the biggest market and stuff. This is pretty harsh. Can't they just be a little nicer? No. They have to watch all this anime. It's my job to watch this anime, so I have to be a critic. You know, very classic. And I can understand being like not too into it or whatever. But like, yeah, it's like. Could be worse with Aiken. I guess so. We'll get to Aiken, I suppose. They probably find some creative way to talk about that one. They try to be crass in some places. Anyway, that's about 2 hours. Hope you guys like this stream. It's a little unclear about whether I do it a little sooner in the next week, maybe like Tuesday or Wednesday, around there. Maybe in the afternoon or something, and not like at 6 p.m. or whatever. And then, if not, then, I'll keep you guys updated on my Twitter. You guys know what to do. I'll keep you posted. At least I'll try to. Maybe I'll try not to drop this. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a fun time.